The Retreat, Grace, Part 1. As soon as Callum left, Grace's anxiety started to whir slowly, like the arms of a fan that had just been turned on. She glanced at the clock. 7 a.m. What on earth was she going to do to fill the day? It would be one thing if her girls were at all similar. In having twins, Grace had incorrectly assumed that they would be two peas in a pod. Tess was the Spitfire. She was constantly moving and getting into things she shouldn't. Grace felt like every time she turned around, Tess was injuring herself or swatting at her sister. Tess was also precocious. She began talking in near full sentences at 18 months. If Tess was the sun, Mavie was the moon. She was quiet and introspective. She was perfectly content to sit on the couch and drink her milk while Tess tornadoed around the living room. If Mavie had her way, she would have been snuggling with Grace or sleeping every moment of the day. She had yet to speak, but Grace could tell that she was intelligent. She tuned into emotions keenly, and she was very empathetic. When Tess cried, Mavie cried, which was exactly what was happening right now. Grace looked at her phone. It would be really nice if she had someone, anyone, to call for help. Her parents lived in a different state, and her friends, they were all in-state and childless, or out of state and unavailable. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Grace was startled out of her reverie. She looked at the clock, wondering who could possibly be visiting so early. She glanced down to see what she was wearing. One of Callum's t-shirts and her backup to the backup oversized sweatpants. She saw a single Cheerio stuck to her left pant leg. She was in her glasses and her hair was pulled back in a loose bun. She sighed. She certainly wouldn't be impressing anyone. Girls, hush, someone's at the door. Tess, overwhelmed by her curiosity, instantly stopped crying. Mavie followed suit. Grace opened the door and was blinded by the morning sunlight. She expected to see a delivery driver or her next-door neighbor, grumpy Mrs. Hilgers, coming to ask them to keep it down. Instead, she saw a young girl. Grace held her hand up to shield her eyes from the morning sun. The girl was wearing a Nirvana t-shirt and cut-off jean shorts. Her sneakers had doodles on the toes, and she was wearing about 100 bracelets on her left wrist. Her hair was a tumble of red curls, and freckles dusted her nose. She had earnest brown eyes and the long, lanky angles of adolescence. Hello? Grace craned her neck to look behind the girl. Girl Scouts, she thought. But in the back of her mind, she knew that couldn't be right. It was too late in the year. Hi, ma'am. My name is Rainey Wilson. I'm 13 years old, and my family just moved in down the street. Grace bristled. She didn't love being referred to as ma'am. In her mind, that term was reserved for women of a certain age, not women who were barely 30. Oh, well, welcome to the neighborhood, Grace said slowly. Is there something I can help you with? Tess pushed in front of Grace. I like your bracelets, Tess said. Mavie hid behind Grace's leg. Rainey blinked at Tess. She immediately shifted her gaze back to Grace. I couldn't help but hear that you have kids, and I'm looking for a summer job. I would ideally like to do something that doesn't require talking to people, but my dad says that I need to work on my people skills, she said. She delivered her words flatly and efficiently. Grace remembered kids like Rainey from her old job, her old life. She felt a pang of longing for those days in her chest. Wow. Well, what exactly did you have in mind? Grace asked, curious. I would like to babysit your kids, Rainey said, or help you with them. Grace was speechless. On the one hand, wasn't this exactly what she had been hoping for? Someone to help? She looked up at the sky. God, she thought. On the other hand, should she be offended that this girl, this kid, whom she didn't even know, thought she needed help? And just that, she didn't know her. She tried to think of a polite way to decline, but she found her mouth moving before her brain could catch up. We're going to the pool today. I could use some help with that? She nearly clapped her hand over her mouth. Did she really just say that? Rainey smiled, the first genuine emotion she seemed to display. Great, I love the pool. I took every lesson twice. I'll go get my swimsuit. And with that, she bounded away. Wait, Grace shouted after her, but it was fruitless. Rainey had already disappeared. Grace sighed. She wondered what Callum would think. He was always encouraging her to get help. He was always saying that she needed someone, anyone. But a young girl? Who is she? Tess asked. She's our new friend Rainey. She's going to help us, Grace said. She took a deep breath and propped open the door, inviting a complete stranger into her life.